Oh my word. Wow.
Yeah.
This is a party.
Hey.
Bon appetit.
In my house, we always used to sit down at the table. You weren't allowed to watch TV. Looking back, I really like that. So that's a social thing that it fulfills.
Right, come and eat your pudding, Clive. What? Your pudding that you got there.
You know, that is gorgeous.
It also fulfills that need in us every day that we've got to top up our energy.
Oh, my goodness. The choice doesn't end there.
So it's functional and it's something that gives you pleasure. I mean, think of this sensory experience of eating. Tastes, textures.
Wow. What a look at that.
Common issues that occur within dementia and eating and drinking. If Dad sits down and he's got a full plate, if there's too much visually going on, it's a challenge. So he's probably sat down thinking, whoa, you know, where do I even start with this?
Shall I chop the potatoes? Then you don't need the knife at all. It's one less thing to have to focus on.
I put it very simply so that there wasn't too much clutter around. Here's your meal, Clive. And he'd just look at it. And then I'd say, well, would you like to start? And he'd say, well, I haven't got my meal.
And it's beautiful lamb.
Oh, fantastic. Look at that.
Reduce portions slightly so that there is a bit more room to see things on the plate. Or even say to him, right, Dad, that's a bit of fish there. That's broccoli. These are chips.
Salmon crumble, mashed potato and vegetables. How does that sound?
Very nice.
Good.
Because we already know he's got problems with object recognition. So we're purely providing a auditory cue to the visual.
He might start off with eating with the spoon or the fork or whatever, but then he very quickly would start using the ends of his spectacles, or he'd start putting the napkin in his mouth or anything like that. There was a big confusion there. So we did try using this technique, which has been recommended, where you sort of stand with the person and you help guide their hand with the spoon.
Right, ready? Here we go.
Mel is talking about Teepa Snow's hand-under-hand technique.
I'm here to the side and I'm actually with his right hand and if he's right-handed, and my right hand, I'm doing the fine manipulation, but I literally trick his brain into believing it's him. And we are joined neurologically through the circuitry in one of the most sensitive parts of the human body, here and then here. And so by doing that, his brain knows when something is about to touch him in a very different, unique way. And so usually resistance drops way down and participation comes way up when the person can interpret.
Just take a bite, like this.
If you can start people off with the activity, suddenly they can do it all themselves. Because again, that is to do with part of the brain that's damaged that allows us to initiate tasks.
Okay, you just sit there and eat. I'm coming back.
Contrasting plates. Now, people say, oh, should it be red? Should it be blue? But it doesn't matter what colour it is, as long as it offers contrast to the table and the food. So if you had one of those white camping tables outside, we're going to have some nice food outside today, but I put it on a white plate and it's mashed potato with your favourite cauliflower cheese. And I'll stick that on the plate. There's nothing visually to draw me to that food at all. And you're saying it's on the plate, but I can't see it. What the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? Because I'm right and you're wrong.
Are you going to eat, Clive? Here. The fork is there.
All that.
Okay, and the food is here.
That's strange. Why didn't I do it?
If, however, I put that on a red plate, the red plate contrasts with the table, it contrasts with the food. I can see the food on the plate, on the table. So you're just throwing information at me so I can try and hopefully see.
Good.
Other problems may be coordination with chewing and swallowing. Now, they're two very different actions within the mouth. We can chew something, we can chew it all day. It doesn't mean I can swallow it necessarily. You may see behaviors along the lines of I chew and I chew and I chew, but I don't swallow, but then I take more food in. And I chew and chew and chew, and I don't swallow. It's amazing how much food can be stored around this part of the body here. We do what's called pocketing, and people end up looking a little bit like hamsters. What they need is prompts to know that I've finished chewing that, now I can swallow it. And that would be a visual. You may say, Dad, swallow. And you may show again and again.
Clive?
Mm-hmm.
Great, done.
Or you may offer a drink, because then I've got to swallow.
Like a straw. That's it. Okay. But don't forget to swallow it.
And then what you may hear then is you may hear some coughing, either someone doing this sort of thing.
You need to drink.
Or that might even get more aggressive, like It can get up to that point.
Oh my heaven, Mrs. Jenkins.
I talked to our GP when Dad started to find swallowing difficult, and we were referred to a speech and language therapist. We started using different cups and making jellies and smoothies because they're slightly easier to swallow than thinner liquids.
If the brain has got to the point where it doesn't recognise hunger and thirst, and it will get to that point, then we need to prompt that person regularly with drinks. One solution may be thickening fluids. Now, best of luck with that. This is something I say to people who are going to be on our course. We're going to drink some thickened water. We're going to have a cup of thickened tea. Because you're saying it's okay for everyone to do that, so do it. See what it's like. And then what would happen if you didn't have the brain capability to make a decision? Yeah, I know this is for my benefit, but it tastes like crap. And it really does taste like crap as well.
It's definitely hard getting someone to drink when they're not interested.
Eddie?
Betty went through the same with her partner, David.
David, if he didn't want to drink, he wouldn't drink. So I found it very difficult to get any fluid into him. And being aware of the danger of dehydration, of course. We had this thickening thing for all his fluids. Tea, for example, I had to put this thickener in. And of course, he didn't like it. And he wouldn't drink his tea if he had this thickener in it. So it is a very, very difficult thing to deal with, this dehydration.
If I get dementia, I don't believe I'm going to actually change my opinion about thickened tea.
You can see now how it's thickening.
Here's the deal. When someone develops dementia, they have a terminal illness. And so if when I give you a thickened something, you go, oh my God, what is this? Then I've got to ask myself, okay, if you don't take it in, you're not actually getting hydrated. Then, okay, I've robbed Peter to pay Paul, because the problem is still hydration.
Actually, that is not too bad. That is passable. For a hot chocolate.
I'd rather risk choking to death than drink that. It's true though, you try one.
But, joking apart, it's a tough old time when someone you love starts to wind down, although everyone is different, of course.
Once we've ruled out things like infections, oral pain, are my dentures fitting right, particularly if I've lost a lot of weight? Have I got oral thrush? Have I got a cavity or something? If we ruled all that out, it might be that actually we are getting towards the later stages now. And hunger and thirst is no longer our primary issue. Our primary issue is keeping someone comfortable until the probable end.
Late in the disease, there's a lot of mouth breathing going on, which dries out all the mucous membranes. How can I produce some moisture? Okay, so let's look at what do you guys, you call them a flannel. I call it a washcloth, you all call it a flannel. And so I wet it, and then I put it in here to see, does the person suck on it? Do they bite on it? What can they do? Even if they bite on it, the little bit of moisture in it is going to be then distributed. The other plus is I can actually use that washcloth to go along the gum line on the sides, which is where the highest risk, the low gum line is the highest risk for gingivitis, bacteria that then can get into the bloodstream, which then causes sepsis, which is one of the major ways of having somebody finally pass away because they can't fight infections anymore.
I remember that day that he'd stopped eating. We had a nurse who was a friend, and she came along and saw him, and she said, he's dehydrated. He's very dehydrated. I wasn't aware that he couldn't swallow. He couldn't tell me that he couldn't swallow. And maybe that is why he wasn't eating. But how was I to say that it was due to his difficulty swallowing? Because he couldn't tell me.
And that's the trouble. Difficulty swallowing seems to be accompanied by difficulty doing everything else too.
Can you move that foot? Yeah?
That's right.
Yeah, move it towards that side.
Come on, Clive, lift up your left foot.
As you'll have noticed in these scenes in later films, Dad has declined considerably since the start of this series.
Up. That's better.
Teepa characterises each stage of dementia with a gem description, and Dad is now probably a pearl.
The good news is when you give care just right, that shell opens and there's this amazing gem, pearl, built on a grain of sand, layer by layer by layer, still in there, still present and still able to come out when we know the right care and the right support, and quit worrying so much about the shell and start recognizing the beauty of that human who is still present until they need to go. And at the end, we've got to learn the art of letting go.
It's really hard to admit it and accept that life won't go on forever. But like Betty, we're doing our best in the time we have left.
There we are. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
How was that, Dad?
Perfect.
I found it difficult to admit to myself that I was going to lose him. And he died in the end of dementia. I think that is what was on his death certificate. Dementia.
Yep, dementia. Thank you, Betty.